Hey, 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 it is time. This is our favorite day of the week because we talk about our discoveries. That's right, what we've learned from a discussion about lessons learned. It's also the penultimate, that's right, penultimate day before we celebrate our 2-year anniversary of the program. I can't believe we've gotten this far. We're going to talk about what we've learned over the last 2 years with this program and some other things in today's edition of Today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Tom, you would think that I could learn it in 2 years, but alas, I cannot. In today's episode of Today's Antidote, I cannot get that squared away. I know it makes you laugh every time.
Well, that's all right. It's, you just a little more practice and you'll get it.
That's it.
It's sometimes hard. It's easy, like you want to say, this is today's, the title has today's Antidote. So, it's a little bit challenging, but that's okay. All good people got what you're trying to say. That's all that matters.
That's it. How are you?
I'm doing very well this morning. How about yourself?
I'm good. My ankle that I hurt 2 days ago is moving a little bit, which is good.
Nice.
Still pain. I'm debating whether my next stop today is to go get some care or to just ride it out.
So you didn't really just say you hurt your foot so that you could prop it up all afternoon yesterday and evening watching basketball?
No, it is legitimately hurt. I could show you. I mean, if you want to see, I can show you a swollen ankle.
No, though, that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Good. I wouldn't want to see you. Not that I don't want to see the ankle. You trying to figure out how to get your foot up there so you could show the ankle. It probably would be with your 6'7" frame would be challenging. So I think we're all right.
Okay. All right. So why don't we get to it? We got a lot to cover today. And I want to remind people right at the start that we are going to do a special episode tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time, a Saturday episode, because it's our actual 2-year anniversary. And Tom and I wanted to celebrate it by actually being there at the time, exactly 2 years later. And well, we have no social life. Oh, I wasn't supposed to throw that part in.
I got to go to a game. I actually even have to. I might have to leave right after this to drive to my game.
Wow. Okay. All right. You're a man about town.
Well, and I'm sure you've got a game to watch by noon or so. So you'll
yes.
Get yourself settled in and ready to go.
That's it. Guy go to the store and get my goodies so that I can be ready to have a snack.
There you go. And not have to get up.
Ripple Cut potato chips were on sale at Giant. Buy one, get one free. That's one of my weaknesses.
What was it? Ripple Cut? Oh, Ripple Cut.
Ripple Cut potato chips, yes.
Just plain?
Yeah, plain, but I like them with some hummus.
A chickpea guy, huh? Interesting.
And then a
very
beverage.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. little beverage. It could be a good afternoon.
Sounds like fun.
Yes.
Better than probably being on a lacrosse field being yelled at by coaches and players and parents and all that, where I'll be. So.
I can't say because I've never been on a lacrosse field being yelled at by people. I've been yelled at by people, but never on a lacrosse field. So I'm going to give you that one.
All right. So, Bob, as we dive into it, welcome everyone. Thanks for being a part of our show today. As Bob mentioned, our penultimate one before our 2-year anniversary. I think he just likes saying that word, and that's why he shared that. If you are listening today, because today we're going to talk about our discoveries of the week around our topic, lessons learned. It's kind of an interesting thing is that we are going to share our lessons learned today about conversation around lessons learned. It's kind of a circular thing, I think.
Didn't think of it until you said it.
Anyhow, if you have some lessons learned you'd like to share or a discovery of the week, please feel free to put it in our comments. If you happen to be watching this on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
Wow, that was very reserved. That was good. Impressive.
Just,
So,
every now and then I like to mix it up.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So we would love for your comments because we know how much that impacts our show. If you happen to be listening to the podcast and are unable to comment, obviously, you can always
yell at your screen, your windshield, or the person next to you.
I guess you could do that. Although, unless there's somebody else in the car, they might not hear it unless you roll down the windows. It's supposed to be really nice in Baltimore, so you might be able to roll down
the window and share it with someone.
There you go.
You got to listen to these knuckleheads.
You could also share it by sending a link to someone. You could also rate it, which we would love for you to do. And Bob, how would you like them to rate it?
I'm just going to go out on a limb here, Tom. I think we do a brilliant job of this, so 5 stars.
5 stars. Excellent. Yes, that would be great. And if you have discoveries of the week that you would like to share with others, you can share them inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go there, and there is a post up already for an opportunity to share your discoveries of the week, whether it's around lessons learned or something else you discovered this week that you wanted to share with our community members, because you know that it will help them take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So we look forward to your comments as well as any thoughts that you share inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. So now let's dive into it, Bob. Sorry, but first we need to share our celebrations. What are you celebrating today, Bob?
I'm going to celebrate my lovely ripple cut potato chips because I had some last night. Oh, they're so good. I knew you'd enjoy that.
It's funny. I do remember it's probably been 2 months now, when in our celebrations, mine typically were more personal and yours were all very work related. Well, I think over the last 2 months, that has definitely sort of shifted. Not always for me, but many of your times have been personal things, which is
all right,
good.
I'm going to come back to work stuff.
No, I didn't. That's not why I shared that. I shared it's good that we get to learn a little bit more about Bob's celebrations in his personal life.
Well, and I think it also, if I'm playing it out fully, it was a celebration because yesterday afternoon I did not work real hard. I actually took some time to rest. I took some time to watch some basketball, which is not easy, as you know, for me to do. So the ripple cut potato chips are really a symbol of me taking some time to relax and enjoy myself.
Excellent. I love it. So my celebration today is interesting. I thought about it, and then I hadn't really thought about it. But yesterday I happened to be scrolling through Facebook, and in my memories was a post that I think both Bob and I put up after our first conversation, or our conversation in 2020 around the pandemic and what were we going to do and what were the options, and when we came up with the idea to start this show. And so as much as I want to celebrate that action, and I want to celebrate in a way, and it's one of the reasons that I love the quote. Hopefully you can see it. It might be a little blurry on my wall, where it says, "Do something today your future self will thank you for." Well, my future self, myself of today, is very thankful that we had that conversation and decided to act on it 2 years ago. And so I might challenge you as a part of my celebration. What are you going to do today that 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years from now, you will be celebrating and thankful that you took that action? So hopefully.
Can I read that post, Tom?
Sure.
This is a post I wrote, and it says, Bob Graham is feeling excited. It was March 17, 2020. So this was, I think most of the stuff around the country was shutting down.
Starting to shut, that people were
the day before. Schools, I think, were starting to close, and businesses. And I wrote this: just got off an amazing call with the brilliant Tom Brush. We are cooking up something that's going to serve as a daily antidote to some of the chaos unfolding in business today. Look for it Thursday with a possible preview tomorrow morning. Can't say more. And then the hashtags are breakthroughs, today's antidote, business, leaders, and success.
I like it.
What I love most about it, probably more for tomorrow's show than today, this is still true. 2 years later, I told you, I wrote yesterday that I knew you were brilliant 2 years ago. In the last 2 years, I've learned of your brilliance, like multiplied 1,000 times.
Well, thank you. I don't know. It's just sharing what's real.
You do it well.
Well, thanks. All right, Bob. So we don't take up all of what we'll probably likely talk about tomorrow.
Time for a quote.
What's our quote?
Our quote today: successful entrepreneurs or leaders dust themselves off, learn what they can from their stumbles, then move forward with new knowledge, experience, and perspective that they've acquired from that experience.
I love it. Excellent.
Thought you'd like that one.
It's very appropriate to our conversation all week, which has been about lessons learned. And if you've missed it, I would encourage you to go back and listen to our episodes. We talked a little bit about the importance of discovering your lessons learned on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we went through 3 key questions that you can ask yourself. What went well? What didn't go as planned? And what would you do differently as a way to help you discover what your lessons learned were, as well as to avoid judging the results that you might get. And so now we'll sort of wrap up this week's discussion, share our lessons learned on lessons learned, or discoveries of the week on lessons learned. You want to kick us off, Bob?
I do. So I don't know if you know this, Tom, but yesterday you really made me think about how I approach those 3 questions in a new way.
Really?
I said yesterday, if you remember, that I kind of gloss over the first 2 and put my money on the third one. And while I believe the third one's really important, I went through that process yesterday twice with things I was doing. And I really forced myself. I wrote down on a sheet of paper my answers to the first 2 before I would even consider the third one. And in both those cases, my answers to the first 2 were more enlightening, and they also seeded the third question. So what went well was the first one, and I would write, this went well, this went well, this went well. What didn't go as planned? Well, I wasn't prepared for this question. I wasn't prepared for this situation. I didn't have the information at my fingertips that I should have had for something. And then that led to the third one where, what might I do differently going forward? And where I really got to was a completely new approach to the whole sequence. And in one case, it was a sales call. And it's like, okay, I'm doing these sales calls a lot. I just was like, okay, this is how I need to try to do it. And I tried it later in the day, the new way. And then I went through the same process again and further refined it. So in the course of a day, I refined a process that if you had asked me yesterday morning, when you make a sales call, do you have it? Yeah, I know what I'm doing. It's no big deal. By the end of the day, that whole process had been completely revamped because I was asking those questions and because I was building off of what went well and what didn't go as planned more than just, next time I'm just going to do this differently. Does that make sense?
It does. No, and I think that's one of the things. I think one of the things you shared that I would just offer, because this is the question that I think tricks people up a little bit, is the middle one. Is the, what didn't go as planned. And you even gave an example of how it trips people up. Because when you were talking about it, what I heard you say was that I didn't have this information in front of me that I should have had. Right. I didn't have the answer to this question. And you said it like as a judgment.
Yes.
And I think the key is, how do we avoid that judgment and just say, could I really know every question that somebody was going to ask me? No. That you never know what questions people are going to ask. You never know what information you're going to need, because every person on the other end is different. And so they are going to come up with things. And I think it's just a great way for you to say, interesting, this person asked this question. This might be a recurring theme. So for now, future calls, I will have this information available. I will have a different answer or a planned answer for when this question arises. And I think that's a very subtle piece of that question, is that you don't get into the shoulda, woulda, couldas, because that'll just lead you down to, that didn't go as planned. Now that was awful.
I screwed that up. I'll never do it again.
Right. It's just understanding like, that's interesting. Never could have imagined. I mean, I guess maybe I could have if I had really
but you didn't.
That's right. And that's one of the things you can't control. So I think that that's a key thing around that second question, is not asking it as a what went wrong. It's more of what wouldn't go as I planned, as I thought it would. Because we can't imagine every scenario, every situation, everything that might come up from someone, especially on a sales call, that we know a little bit, know some things about, can do some research on, and yet still don't know them like you and I having a conversation, because we know so much about each other. And even still, even the people we know extremely well can always come up with a question that we like, well, where did that come from? So that's fascinating. Maybe that's something I could consider having an answer to in the future when someone else asks it.
It's funny you say that, because I actually, the second time I went through the process, it was something that didn't go as expected, that actually went far better than I imagined. If I were judging it, shouldn't be, but I was. And that's
okay.
what actually catalyzed me into changing the whole process. It was like, wait, this thing worked. And the thing that worked 2 weeks ago. I was like, so the question of what didn't go as expected, it's like, I didn't expect this approach I took in leaving a message to work so well, but it invited the person to want to follow up. And it was like, who knew? Okay,
Correct.
I need to apply that more commonly. And I don't think I would have done that if I hadn't been through those 3 questions. And I wasn't in a place where it's like, okay, I'm trying not to judge hard, but I'm trying not to judge. And I'm trying to look for the most efficient, the most effective, the most elegant solution that requires the least amount of effort with the most result. So it's an efficiency thing. You know, if I can leave a message and say the words that get the person to call back and go, hey, I want to know more, of course I'm going to do that. I don't think I would have realized that had I not been. And the person, I said to him in the call, it's like, well, what led you to call back? Just matter of factly. And they said this. I had it in my notes. As I was going through my notes, it's like, I had no idea that registered the way it did.
Sure.
So now today on this sales call, I'll try that same technique if I leave a message and see if I get the same result, or if I get a different result. Maybe that was one time only, or it may be it's universal. If you keep doing this process and keep asking those 3 questions, you will continue to refine.
And I think one of the things it also does, it allows you to avoid expectations.
Yes.
Because I think, I could hear when you first said it, you were talking about, wow, that worked. Now I've got a new way to do it. As long as it's a new way to do it, you do that and still continue to ask those questions, rather than just continuing to say, oh, I got it, and this is now the solution for every person, for every voicemail that I'm going to leave. I'm always going to get this result. And I think we set ourselves up sometimes for that, thinking, oh, now I've solved the problem and I have the solution, and I'll start to move forward this way. And then when it doesn't happen, you're like, well, why didn't it work for this person? It worked for that person. And then it's just a big judgment on what's going on. And I think those are the pieces that it's sometimes really difficult to avoid. And I think one other thing you shared that I thought was worth repeating is that there is a momentary judgment. And I think that's okay. That's, as I said earlier this week, that's human. We're going to react to things. And the key is not staying stuck in that reaction or the emotion that is a part of it. I have a friend that I was talking to who is another official, and they have one call from earlier this week that has stuck with them multiple days. One call. Out of all the calls that could be made over multiple days, this one call sticks in their head. And I think, yes, that's fair. And if you allow it to stay there, it is likely going to impact future calls, rather than just saying, hey, you know what? All right. What went well? What didn't go as planned? What went well is I at least identified the file. Maybe I didn't administer it correctly, or maybe there was something else about it that didn't go as I planned. And just be like, okay, I'll take that information and I'll move forward. And what might I do differently? Now I've planned it in my head, when I make this call, I might want to pause a second instead of being so quick to move forward to whatever the administration is, just to make sure that I'm clear on what I'm doing and what's going next. And I think that, so it's okay to have a little bit of judgment. That's human nature. Just don't get stuck on that.
I think that's great. What was your discovery of the week? We sort of walked through mine, but not yours.
I think mine, and I think it shows up a little bit in the second and in the third question. I think I have, I'm going to go with one, although I have another.
You can have two. I'll let you have two.
So I think that the first is, and I think it's broadly about the subtleties of those questions. It's as much of what we're not asking as it is what we are asking. The last question is, what would I do differently? So often people go with, what would I have done differently?
Or should have done.
Correct. And that difference between do and done, which is two letters and an E, interestingly enough, kind of ties in with considering that it was not enough, whatever I did, that it is really about what am I going to do next time? And I think we can easily, without that real focus, that minute change from going from done to do, allows us to avoid judgment a little bit. Is that when it's about done, you go back and start woulda, shoulda, coulda's all over again, rather than next time, or that's interesting information. How do I apply that the next time I'm in a situation like this? So I think it's those little subtleties around it that are key to remember. It would be the one. The second one that I would have is, it's the question that's not asked that I think is really good, that it's not a part of it. We ask what went well. And I think that's a lot around what you and I talk about, is that we celebrate the actions that we take, not the results that we got. And so often people want to do the what went well, what didn't go well.
What did I do right? What did I do wrong?
Correct.
And what should I have done differently?
All judgment questions.
Yeah.
Rather than just what went well. Okay, what didn't go as planned? And then what would I do differently? Those are all, it's a little bit more about forward thinking.
Not a little bit more, Tom. They're all about forward.
They're all about.
They're about taking the next steps. And we keep saying, we've said for 2 years, taking the next step on your unique journey to wherever you're trying to go, whatever your pathway of success is. That's why this works. You're looking forward and saying, should I come up with this situation again? Here's the things I've discovered previously that can inform my next set of decisions.
Yes. And it makes that next step many times easier. Doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that it's a step that, even though we identify it, we're ready to take it. But we'll talk more about that next week. That's a little prelude into our conversation next week around your next step. So I guess those are my discoveries of the week. I think that this is one of my favorite topics, because that's such a valuable tool. It's interesting. I had someone last night, one of my partners last night, say that was a bad
officiating
partners. Yes.
Right.
Say,
sorry, didn't know if you were doing country line dancing or square dancing, or you were doing your St. Patrick's Day celebration and
my little jig
on stage singing, Irish songs. I just wasn't sure what it was, Tom.
Fair enough. Yes, it was one of my officiating partners. They said I made another bad decision. And it was around the uniform that we chose to wear based on the weather. And I was like, wasn't bad. It was just a decision that you made. And then we say, all right, what did you learn from that? I'm like, it wasn't as cold as I thought it was going to be. It didn't rain like it might have, like they were calling for. So you made the decision you could make with the information that you had. It's not a bad decision. It's just a decision. And then we'll figure out what will we do differently next time. So I think it's a great process to follow. And I highly encourage you, if you are not doing this around many actions that you take, start by doing it every Friday and just go through your week. Do it at the end of the month. And I try as best I can, is to do it every day to try to really understand that. And if you're struggling with that, you have a hard time trying to figure it out, or you can't always come up with the answers that you want, or not that you want, that you just can't come up with the answers to those questions, reach out to Bob or I, because we would love to help you talk through that so you are not stuck. So you're not spending your time judging and staying either in the frustration or the jubilation of thinking you found the solution to every answer or to every question. Please feel free to reach out to us, because we can probably be helpful with that. Another great way is to become a part of our Renegade Success Network that has really helped others figure out how to take their next steps, how to celebrate the actions that they've taken, how to understand what maybe didn't go as planned and the value of knowing that, and then figuring out what would they do differently in their next step. So we'd love for you to become a part of that community as well. Again, just feel free to reach out to Bob or I if you have any questions or are interested in learning more about the Renegade.
I put the link to the
Network.
Renegade Success Network in the comments so people
Excellent.
can find it.
Excellent. All right. So I think that wraps us up for
That
another
wraps
great
us
week.
up. That means tomorrow at 8 a.m. we have the celebration.
Woohoo!
And who knows what we'll do then, because we're not going to plan it.
Kind of like almost every show we've done for 338 episodes.
538.
538. Correct.
That's daunting to me. That's the number that sticks in my head.
What's funny is every time I think about it, I try to go back and count and like, did we do our number? Did I? Because I do the numbering right every day. And is that the true number, or is it somewhere around there because I double counted a day? Or I was trying to do that the other day, like how many weekdays in a year are there? And
No, I
we
keep
won't
track. I spot check them every couple days. You're on track.
All right, excellent. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show today. Again, if you have comments or thoughts you want to share, put them in the comments, because we do go back and look at them. Or go to the Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share them under the post today about your discoveries of the week. We would love to hear what they were. And tomorrow morning, listen to our show. And also you can share the success, what you achieved this week. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. And for the first time in a long time, if we don't see you there, we'll see you Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition, our
2-year anniversary celebration.
Is it penultimate? Is that the word? No.
It's the ultimate.
It's the ultimate 2-year celebration. Okay, fair enough. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Get up early and start your Saturday with Tom and Bob. That sounds really good. Start your Saturday. I got it. We should record that and start doing a Saturday program. Hey, in the meantime, while we talk about that, embrace the renegading you. You're worth it. Promise.
All right, everybody. Have an amazing day. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.